Welcome to Therapy in the Great Outdoors, the podcast where we explore the business and practice of nature-based pediatric therapy of all kinds. If you're an outdoor-loving pediatric practitioner in the fields of occupational, physical, or speech therapy, social work, or mental health, this podcast will help you start and grow a successful nature-based practice or program. I am the ever honest, always 100% real, you'll hear it all on this podcast, Dr. Laura Park Figueroa. I'm a pediatric OT with over 20 years of experience, and I run a thriving nature-based practice with profitable locations in 2 different states and multi-six figures in revenue. I also host the free online community at therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com to help you pursue your nature-based therapy dreams too. Are you ready to take action on those dreams? Let's jump in. Hello, everyone. In this episode, I'm going to talk about the article, The Tool for Observing Play Outdoors, abbreviated TOPO, T-O-P-O, a new typology for capturing children's play behaviors in outdoor environments by Lobach and Cox. So if you missed part 1, go back to last week's episode, which was number 98, and listen to that one first to learn how this tool was developed and tested, and hear about the 9 categories of outdoor play and the subtypes which the authors created in this tool for observing play outdoors. This is a fabulous article that has so many implications for our practice as nature-based pediatric therapist, and I will share the implications in this episode for us and how you can use the TOPO tool in your practice to become a more skilled facilitator of play in your nature-based sessions. So I am going to start with, it's page 24 of the article. So I don't know if I mentioned last week that this article is open access. So you are allowed to access it for free. They probably paid money to do that. I was unable, when I published, I was just publishing myself. I wasn't publishing like as a staff member on faculty at a school or anything like that. And so I could not afford to make my article open access. It was going to cost, I think, between $3,000 and $4,000. And I just did not feel like that was money that I had to spend at the time after spending thousands of dollars for my PhD program. And so I did not pay to have mine open access. So I have a very deep appreciation when people are able to make their articles open access, because a lot of times institutions will be able to do that because they have funds for that in the institution, right? It benefits an institution or a school if they publish research that is open access because it is much more widely cited and more widely available to people. So if you can always get a copy of my article if you want a copy by going to therapyinthegreatoutdoors.com/model and get a copy of my dissertation research article for free and not pay the $65 that they want to charge you on the journal's website. So if you want that, you can go there. Okay, but I digress. That was a little rabbit hole on open access articles. So this article, the TOPO article, is open access. You can access it yourself for free. It's available, and you can get the tool itself, and also, which I'll talk about a bit in this episode, and also get the chart of all of the different types of play and the examples and the description of those types of play. I think they call them categories or type. They call them types. Yeah. Primary play type with subtypes. And then also the article also has the table with all the types in it, the play types. It also shows common intersections with other play types and comparable categories from other typologies and assessments that are out there. So it's a really substantial article with a lot of really great information that I think you guys can immediately apply to your practice outdoors with kids. So this episode, we're going to talk about implications. So I'm on page 24, like I said, of the article. And the first thing that I want to read from the article is the intention that they had for the TOPO. They say the TOPO is intended to more effectively capture the diverse types of outdoor play that may be observed in a given setting and across a broad range of ages, and does not privilege one aspect of play as better or more developmentally advanced than another. To reflect this goal, we propose two particular innovations. Eschewing, I don't know how to say that word, eschewing any hierarchical framework of play types, and the use of up to two play types for each play observation to more fully and reliably characterize children's outdoor play. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those two different things. So the first thing, which is very different between the TOPO and other tools that are out there to categorize or assess in some way or observe children's play, is that the TOPO is non-hierarchical. So they do not say, as they just stated here, the observation tool itself is purposefully structured in a way that does not highlight or value one type of play as better than another type of play or as more developmentally advanced. And one of the things they say in the article is that we in the past have had this view of development as being, of child development as being linear. This happens, then this next thing happens. And you may have heard me say this on previous episodes, but I feel like the older I get and the more mature and wise I get, hopefully as we age, we get more mature and wise. I would hope for all of us that that's the case. So I'm not trying to say I'm wise just because I'm old, but is that most things in life are not either or, they are both and. And so this is a situation where I think that is true. Like, yes, development is linear. It moves in a sequential process, right? Like some things happen before others, and those are building blocks for other things to happen beyond those more primary skills or skills that happen first. But as this article states, development is also cyclical and goes up and down and topsy-turvy curvy all over the place. Play is so complex, and all of these different types of play don't happen in a linear, perfect developmental sequence, right? And so that's what they're trying to capture here with this tool, is that multiple kinds of play take place at once, and we can't pull out just one type of play as being better or more beneficial than another. So that is the first thing they say, is that it's not a hierarchical framework. The second thing they mentioned there was the use of up to two play types when you observe play. So the tool is set up to allow you to categorize a certain episode of play as two different types of play on the tool. So the reason for this is that a lot of times in their research, when they looked at other play tools, observation tools for play, they realized that it was really challenging to categorize things. And I believe they also say in the article, I'm remembering it from somewhere in the article, but I'm not going to reference it immediately and read it to you right now, but that when they actually added into the TOPO the ability to categorize a episode of play or a observation of play as two different types at once, the inter-rater reliability for the tool went up. So it meant that the tool was more robust and more valid because it was able to capture different nuances of play, and the reliability of different people using the rating tool became higher. So it was better able to capture the nuances of play in that way. One quote I love here about this is that they say, it is in the combination of the two play types that the more holistic spirit of the play is revealed. I love it. Oh, here it is. When observers were encouraged to code up to two play types, inter-rater agreement increased substantially. So the double rating, being able to put two different play types on one episode of play, allowed for raters to agree on what was happening in the observation of that play. They also state here that the addition of a third play type did not significantly improve either the understanding of the play episode or the inter-rater reliability. Most third play types recorded related to the type of communication that was supplementing the play. This is important for those of you who are speech therapists or assistants listening. When this verbal communication was removed to a separate measure using the play communication typology, which is in Appendix A, the addition of a third play type was deemed largely unnecessary to the provision of a rich picture of the play episodes. So if you are in the field of speech language pathology, you will want to get this article. There's a whole list of different play communication in this typology that they developed in addition to this tool as an appendix. So what they're saying here is if we can categorize a play episode as two different types, that communication and the social communication that goes on during play was often the third one that people would put onto the play types. And so they didn't need that third category there, and they put it into a whole typology in and of itself called the play communication typology. And again, that's part of this article. It's included as Appendix A in the TOPO article. The link is in the show notes if you guys want the article. Those are the two kind of main takeaways. It's a non-hierarchical tool because play is not linear, and also multiple different kinds of play happen at once. And so it allows you to categorize two different types of play happening at one time. Now, when we get into the use of the tool, they say it can be effectively utilized for observations for both person-based, meaning extended observation over time of individual children, or place-based, for example, systematic recording of the play behaviors of a range of children in a single setting. So you can use this tool for individual assessment or assessment of an environment and what it offers for multiple children in that setting. Okay, I have a note out to the side on the article that I printed with a star that says, "This for nature-based practitioners." While the TOPO is primarily designed as a field observation tool, the embedded typology could also be used as a valuable framework for diverse analyses of outdoor play. And this is what I feel like is the most useful takeaway from this article for us as nature-based pediatric therapists, that we can take these 9 types of play. And even if you don't use the tool, which actually the tool is a very simple chart that they developed. It basically just cues you to write down and categorize different things that you observe in play. It's not a complex tool that requires you to ask a child to do certain things. It's for documenting observations of children's play in an outdoor environment. That's the purpose of the tool. So the tool itself looks like a very simple chart. It's not complex, it's not hard, it's just a structured way to document your observations of children in an outdoor setting. But I think that for us nature-based practitioners, that the value in the 9 categories that they developed, which, just to remind you, I will state them again here in case you disobeyed my command to go back and listen to the other episode before you dove into this one. So the 9 types of play that are included on the TOPO are physical play, exploratory play, imaginative play, play with rules, expressive play, digital play, bio play, restorative play, and non-play. So those are the 9 categories on the TOPO. Those categories actually give us a very valuable framework to look at what we are including in our nature-based sessions with children and find the gaps, find the things that we are not offering or that we don't tend to gravitate towards ourselves as therapists, and then use that tool, use those 9 categories without even writing anything down. If I look at those categories right now and I am providing outdoor services for children on a weekly basis, then I can look at those 9 categories and know immediately. I don't even have to really, it can be a gut feeling that you have. You can just do a gut check with yourself, reflecting on your current practice and on the current things that you are offering to children, and find gaps in what you are offering, and then purposefully treatment plan in order to include some of those other elements of play into your sessions going forward. So I think it's a very loose application of this tool. It's not the intended use of the tool itself, but the typology that they developed of those 9 categories of play, being that they went through a very substantial and rigorous process in research to refine and develop those categories. If you get the article, there are 3 different lists of the types of play as the tool progressed in the development. They show the first one they came up with, and then the second one they came up with, and then the final one. And they explain the reasons behind their choices for the categories of the types of play in the article. So, there was a good, thoughtful, educated research process behind developing this framework. And so I think it's a useful rubric to look at and a useful way to guide our thinking about assessing children's play and looking at what we may be missing in our sessions and what gaps children may have. So along those lines, we can use this as a way to look at, are we seeing, and this may be a more direct application of the tool. Another way you could use this in practice is to actually take the chart that they had, the topo itself, and take it to your session and just check off if you observe these things for individual children in your sessions. And that gives you even more individualized treatment planning because you can really use your therapist brain and apply some clinical reasoning. I always laugh at the word clinical reasoning because we're not in clinics when we're reasoning as therapists outdoors, but you can really apply your clinical reasoning to a specific child by using this tool to look at, is this child showing their ability to engage in all of these different types of play? And if not, why is that? Maybe it's just a preference, right? Maybe it's just some kids are not as into certain kinds of play as others. There are definitely differences between the sexes, differences between personalities, differences between your culture. Like there are all different kinds of reasons why play may be preferred by a certain child and not by another. But I think that it is a useful tool in order to help us expand what we offer them in sessions and be able to really look at play from a holistic standpoint and look at all the different aspects of play that may happen outdoors. And then hopefully kind of stimulate kinds of play that a child maybe isn't having as many opportunities to engage in, and so they're not as comfortable with it, or maybe just exposing them to new things and giving kids a chance to experience new things that maybe aren't so comfortable for them. I mean, that is kind of the whole point of therapy, right? Is to help children become more comfortable in their bodies, become more comfortable taking risks, even when things are hard or a bit uncomfortable. So that is what I see as a huge benefit of this tool for nature-based pediatric practitioners. One last alternative use that I had listed here on my list of things to share with you all is that you could alternatively use this tool to write curriculum, pre-planned ideas to do in your treatment sessions. And the tool itself and all of the categories with their subtypes would allow you to think about what activities and what opportunities are you giving children during your sessions to engage in these types of play. And if you wrote out some pre-planned sessions using these types of play, then you technically would have the ability to go to your list of different things that you created, different ideas that you wrote down in these different play types or categories. And you'd be able to, when you're really overwhelmed with treatment planning or just in the throes of life and you don't have as much time. I mean, I don't know. Do any of us have as much time to treatment plan as we wish we did? I don't think we ever do. But you'd be able to, if you wrote down some of these ideas kind of as a pre-planned curriculum for sessions, you'd be able to select rather than generate. So this is something I say a lot. The human brain has a much easier time selecting than it does generating. So the reason why when we were in college, all of us loved multiple choice tests over essays is because your brain has to just select in one and it has to generate in another. And so if you have some pre-written down ideas using these play types, then you can go to your list when you're overwhelmed and don't have time to treatment plan, and you can look at the type of play that you want to inspire during your session or that your specific child or group of kids needs. Then you'll have some ideas written down and you'll be able to just select the activity and take it into the great outdoors versus coming up with your ideas from scratch, right? So it helps you to do kind of writing down some treatment ideas. I don't know that I'd call it curriculum, because I do talk some about how in previous kind of teaching I've done and probably podcast episodes too, I talk about how therapy is not like education, right? In therapy, we're looking at the child first, looking where the gap in skill is, and then addressing the activity or the things we're trying to offer in the treatment session towards the gaps maybe in development or the things that the child needs to work on. It's individualized. It's not towards a group or a learning objective, right? It's guided by the goal that we write that is individualized to that child. But I do think that if you write down some treatment activities, it's something you can go back to and look at and reuse again. Then you just select them based on the needs of the children or the child that you're working with. And it saves you a lot of time when you go to run a session. So that was another idea that you could use these categories to help you come up with ideas for sessions. So alrighty, that is it for this episode, y'all. I finished my yearly planning yesterday for both of my businesses. I have my numbers and such to share with you. My year in review podcast episode will be coming out in 2 weeks because next week is episode 100 and it is going to be a celebration episode. And I gathered questions from you all. So it's going to be a listener question episode with questions that you all sent me when I gathered questions from you. So that will be next week. Week after it will be my year in review episode. You'll hear all about the numbers in my business and some changes coming up in my business this coming year. I don't think I'll say anything about those right now. I was going to go down another rabbit hole and talk about that, but I will not right now. And I'm going to wrap up. So get outside, even if it is 0 degrees like it is by me today. I'm going to take the dog for a walk right after I stop recording here. Get outside, connect, reflect, and enjoy therapy in the great outdoors. See you next week.